Hi, it's Robin again. So I want to talk a little bit about my diet. When I first started trying to lose the weight that I had regained, I was thinking like a regular dieter, and I was doing Weight Watchers, and it was really hard as a bypass patient to get in that many calories in a day. I was trying to eat healthy again and lose the weight, but so I would even eating like 6 points less. I think I set myself at every day. With that, I had to eat, a dessert every night, and I was eating bad things I knew I shouldn't be. It just didn't work for me as a bypass patient. I mean, it did work in the way that it made me lose weight, but I had to work really hard. I had to work out, 2 times a day. I was doing an hour each time of Zumba, so that's 2 hours of Zumba. And if any of you've done Zumba, you know how it's not easy. And doing 2 hours is a lot of calorie burn per day. I mean, that's, I think, something around 1,400 calories that I burned every day. And then we had our walk at night, and I would do a walk run, or I would push the kids up the hill in their stroller. And that also is a pretty good calorie burn. So I was burning probably at least 1,600 to 1,800 calories a day. But it was so hard and so stressful that I couldn't keep it up, and I started to get used to eating the sweet slider things that I had to eat in order to get my points up. And then by the time it lowered my points down to where I should be eating healthy, I was wanting those slider foods. So for me, that just didn't work, because then I had a really hard time getting my points down underneath the points every day, because I wanted to have my dessert at night. I was used to that, and I wanted to have, and so it wasn't for me. At the same time, we had some extra monetary stress, and we ended up moving, and all these different stresses that were coming in at me too. And so I just said, forget it, and I didn't do anything for a while. So when I came back to this and said, okay, now it's time for me to, get the rest of this baby weight off, and hopefully maybe get down to my lowest, and maybe even finally hit my goal or my doctor's goal, but we'll see, because like I said before, with the 7.5 inch wrist, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to 160 pounds, but I looked pretty good at 187. If I could get there again, I'd be happy. Even at around 190, 195, I looked good. It wasn't until after I got out of the 200s and up to around 210 that I started looking overweight, pretty overweight anyways. Basically, in order to get the last at least 40 pounds off, because right now I weigh 237, after having lost 11 pounds over this last 2 weeks. What I wanted to do is find a way I could do this that I could live with for the rest of my life, and as a gastric bypass patient, because that's really the way I have to think of myself, because I have this tool, and if I don't use this tool, it's like having a spatula and trying to use a fork to flip your eggs. It doesn't make any sense. You got the spatula there, use the spatula, and you'll have your egg over easy or over hard or whatever you want. So basically, I decided to look into, how am I supposed to be doing this? It had been so long since I had done things properly that I couldn't really remember. I was beyond the point of understanding where I should be again. I mean, I knew protein first, because that's what they drill into you, and then vegetables after that, but I couldn't really remember. I mean, I had to really remind myself how to do any of this. So I looked it up, and I found the rules of the pouch. Now, the rules of the pouch, you can Google it and find it, but it does slightly vary depending on who's telling you it, but either way, it's generally the same, and I'll tell you the way I do it. So what you're supposed to do is you have 3 meals a day. I have no more than 6 ounces. It says you can have up to 1.5 cups, but my restriction is still good. It's at more than 6 ounces, I start getting pain. So I try to focus on making it myself, because they sneak things into those packages of food that you get. You get the, oh, well, I've got the chopped grilled chicken in the freezer bags, and it's so convenient and everything. But then you look at the back and you see, wait a minute, 330 milligrams of sodium. Now, I have been losing all this weight very fast over this last couple of weeks, but whenever I eat higher sodium, I notice my weight loss either stops or I go back up a pound. So I'm very careful with my sodium now. Beans in my crock pot with no sodium, no anything added, just pinto beans or black beans or whatever bean I want to make. And then I put them in the freezer in baggies, and I pull it out of the freezer, and I can just dish myself from that. And I'll have, like, 2 ounces of beans and 2 ounces of chicken, which I also cook myself with no sodium, either in the crock pot, or the one I'm going to make soon is going to be in the oven. And so that works really well for me. So those are my main meals. I generally tend to have a couple of ounces of chicken, 2 to 3 ounces of chicken, 2 ounces of beans, and then I have lettuce, and I have Greek yogurt instead of sour cream because it adds extra protein, and tastes just like sour cream, really good. And then, especially if you get the plain kind. And then salsa, paste picante sauce, and I put a little bit of that on top so that gives it a little extra flavor kick for me, and I really like that. Right now I'm on a big kick with that. So or I'll make myself eggs. I usually use the egg whites, and I'll use 1 yolk and mostly whites, and then I cook that up for me and the kids, and I'll portion myself off about 2 to 3 ounces. And but I have my cheaty thing, which is this, and this is a bag of mixed fresh vegetables. You can see the broccoli in there. There's also carrots and snap peas and things like that all in there. And this I can just toss into anything. I'll toss a tablespoon in, a half ounce, depending on how much of it I want. But then so I've got my vegetables, and I don't have to try and like cut around little pieces to make it fit into the ounce mark because it's already cut up. And if you're new onto the diet, onto the bypass, if you've just recently had weight loss surgery of whatever kind, this is also a good way to get your vegetables in earlier on, where you won't be hurting yourself trying to get in the raw vegetables without cooking any of it out of them. So this is a good way to do it. But I just put them in a food processor and just, cut them up until there's nothing but niblets. And then so I'll do that 3 times a day, and then in between I don't drink water 15 minutes before I eat, and I don't drink for an hour and a half after. Then I'll start drinking, and I drink and drink and drink and drink and drink in between. And then 15 minutes before my next meal, I'll water load. And what that is you're trying to give your pouch the feeling of fullness before you eat, because it takes a certain amount of time for your mind to get the message that your stomach is full. So I think it's 20 minutes it takes. So basically what you're doing is tricking your body into thinking it's full before you've even eaten. So you drink the water, which the water loading in between, drinking the water in between, and then whenever I get a little hunger pain, I just drink a little bit of water because I unfortunately was not lucky enough to lose my sense of hunger. But, or at least I gained it back while I was pregnant. The body repairs itself a lot while you're pregnant. Just for FYI, for those of you who are getting bypassed to have babies, this is something you will have to watch for. You should be very careful while you're pregnant. Whatever. And as long as I'm drinking consistently throughout my in-between times, I will not be hungry. And then when it comes time to eat, I'm not even really hungry. But I will drink as much water as I can within 15 to 30 seconds. And I usually portion myself out a cup worth, because I know if I drink too much, I'll probably hurt myself rather than helping myself. So I'll portion myself about a cup of water, and I drink as much of that as I can within about 15 to 30 seconds, just taking sip after sip after sip after sip after sip. And that kind of, and then I'll stop when I start to feel full, and then I wait the 15 minutes after that, and I'll eat my food. Usually it takes 15 minutes to prepare whatever you're preparing, or if it takes 5, then it takes 5, but usually it doesn't take, it doesn't take more than that 15 minutes. That fills up your stomach, and then the hour and a half afterwards that you're not eating, or you're not drinking anything, is keeping you from turning your food that you just ate into kind of like a slushy that will go right through. There's a video, and I'll try to find it and put the link below, but it talks about how you should always chew your food in the consistency of applesauce. And this guy does a demonstration where he shows that there's a funnel and a glass, and he puts the funnel in the glass and he pours the applesauce in. And you can see the applesauce is barely going through. It's just really, really slow. And he says, okay, now let's take a sip of water. And he puts a little bit of water in there, and you can kind of see it goes through a little bit faster. And it's mostly water at first. And then you give him another sip, and it's going through a little faster, and now some of the applesauce is dropping through. And he says, okay, now let's drink the whole glass, or the whole half a glass. And so he pours in just a half a glass of water. And 2 seconds later, all the applesauce goes through the funnel. So that to me was a really interesting demonstration, because it showed me that when I do drink while I'm eating, all I'm doing is just pushing the food through faster, and my body is not going to feel full, and I'm going to be hungry again a little bit later. So so that's basically what I'm doing for food now that I've made a 20-minute video on this. But hopefully some of you will find it helpful. Maybe you might look it up and see what you can do along the same lines. Really helpful for getting rid of grazing habits. Very helpful for getting rid of cravings. Another thing that I'm doing as far as getting rid of cravings is whenever I'm taking notice of the things that I really enjoy eating, things that when I eat them, I want to eat them again a half an hour later, and I'm trying to cut them out. Cheese. If I eat cheese, I want to eat cheese again a half an hour later, 5 minutes later, 2 minutes later. I want to eat cheese all day. So I've cut cheese out. I'm not happy about cutting cheese out, but I've cut cheese out. I've left in 2 kinds of cheese, and that's because they're the kinds that I will not continuously eat. One is those Laughing Cow little cheese triangles. I left those in because I can get a little cheesy flavor, but because the texture and the flavor and everything are not exactly the same as eating regular like cheese, it doesn't get me as much. I'm not dreaming about the Laughing Cow cheeses. I can't get the Laughing Cow hard cheese, only the little wedges that are the soft, creamy kind. And then the other thing I have is a cheese that I've always hated, and that is cottage cheese. And so I will let myself have that because it's a far healthier thing for me to eat if it's not going to make me crave other cheeses, and it doesn't. So so avoiding cheese. I'm avoiding nuts, which were my first slider food that I realized was a slider food, because I thought, okay, well, I'll buy a container of nuts and then I can just toss a couple whenever I want some crunch in something I'm eating. But tossing a couple turned into just rampantly eating the whole thing, over the course of a week and a half. Of course, my husband ate a good half of it. But he doesn't have a weight problem. He doesn't have to worry about that. So I'm trying to cut out all these different little sliders now, and I think that doing the water in between has really helped me. And then I also, with my water phases, I will allow myself protein drinks. Now, I don't add anything. When I have a protein drink, I don't add anything into it. I just drink the protein drink in water, or if I want to drink my vanilla protein drink, because I'm not a big vanilla fan, what I'll do is I make myself a cup of coffee, just black coffee, and then I pour the vanilla into it, and it basically works like a creamer and a sweetener all in one. Those are some tips. Hopefully somebody found some helpful, and hopefully my rambling wasn't too crazy. And I will see you guys with my next video, and hope you're all doing great. Thanks.